So, as everybody knows, recently Vaush and Destiny had this like huge kerfluffle, right? Had this huge kerfluffle, particularly around the issue of George Bush and him being a fascist, him being anti-democratic, and the issue of butterfly ballots came up. And most of the debate, I actually didn't comment much on the debate itself. I kind of used the whole panel as kind of like a what is it? Kind of a Trojan horse to talk about proper debate moderation and how I disagreed with how that debate was handled generally. But the one thing that did catch my eye was the butterfly ballots and the claims being made about them. And apparently, somebody, this man right here, this guy hiding in his attic with, I assume, what must be an assortment of different sharp objects around him, decided to film this serial killer-esque video about me being a conspiracy theorist. And I was really interested in watching this on stream because the person was very adamant that I am a liar, a charlatan, a snake, and a conspiracy theorist. So I was interested in seeing what this young lad had to say. And we'll listen to it as we play some Raid today.
I'm covering a Dylan Burns video called Vaush is Being a Conspiracy Theorist. I don't know what that title means, but he's talking about a panel discussion.
So the title specifically has to do with the butterfly ballots and a conspiracy he was proposing might have happened around the issue of butterfly ballots. That's specifically what the title has to do with.
That includes Destiny, stripper's name, and a bunch of other people I don't know, and Vaush.
Strippers.
And they're talking about whether or not George W. Bush behaved in an anti-democratic manner in Florida during the 2000 presidential race. For some weird reason, Vaush is the only one that thinks yes, he did.
I don't think that's necessarily
true.
I don't think that's necessarily true. If you were to ask me, I think anybody who's trying to speed up the process because they got the W and they don't want all the votes to be counted, I would say that's undemocratic, just in its basic nature. The only thing I commented on was the butterfly ballots issue. The rest of it was me talking about debate moderation. So I don't know where that came from. And I'm pretty sure there was other people on the panel who thought that he was undemocratic. None of them really believed that George W. Bush clicked off everything to be considered a fascist, and it was hyperbolic to call him a fascist, because there's differences between him and what we would call fascists that are notable, so we don't cry wolf. I think that's what the major disagreement was, and then it got into the specifics of the 2000 election, Bush v. Gore, and butterfly ballots.
And since they're all so fucking wrong, it's less a panel discussion than more like a bunch of teenage boys failing at a gangbang because none of them can get their dicks hard.
Oh, okay.
They're focused on the butterfly ballot, which is a bit of a red herring.
Well, it's not that we got focused on the butterfly ballot. It was Vaush got focused on the butterfly ballot. And Vaush proposed a conspiracy that might have happened around the butterfly ballot. And he said that it was absurdly, like, irregular. He was, like, really emphasizing how confusing and hard to comprehend the butterfly ballot was. And if you guys want to, like, take a look at the butterfly ballot, let's actually look that up quick. Butterfly ballot 2000 election. This was specifically in Palm Beach, and the reason this was designed was because they thought it would help with elderly people who had seeing problems, which I think that is ironic considering what it ended up doing. But if you look here, the problem was it was Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Green, Socialist Workers, Natural Law, Reform, Socialist, Constitutional Workers, or whatever, right in. And this line pointed to where you were supposed to punch for your vote. And some people who wanted to vote for the Democrats, I think they proposed to maybe be about 1,500 max or something around that range. Clicked the second one because they saw Democratic was second in line, but Reform was the one who actually had the arrow there. And a lot of people double punched, where they double punched Ralph Nader's, it wasn't Ralph Nader, it was Bat Buchanan's Reform Party, and then Al Gore. And then those ballots, I think, were thrown out, and that was a controversy. That's different than alleging that this was designed incorrectly or this was designed wrong. Then this was designed with the intent of stealing the election with the Democrats, which I think this specifically being placed in Palm Beach County and this being with the idea that these 2,000 votes would be the decider of the election. There's not proof for that. There's no evidence for that. And that was the thing that was up for debate in that conversation. Where were we?
That was only ever really a story because it was just so weird. Anyways, the designer of the butterfly ballot happened to be used to be a Democrat.
So again, since nobody here in all the times I've asked it has managed to supply another explanation.
Yeah, the designer of the butterfly ballot was, I believe, like Miss Lepore, and she is a Democrat.
For why a highly deceptive, completely irregular, and hold on, and unprecedented...
By the way, this is some high-level video quality content right here, right? Being able to hear every little bit of reverb. This not serial killer at all.
That just so happened to favor the candidate that was the brother of the governor at the time. Please. And was distributed specifically in Democratic counties. Like, unless we can find a better explanation for that, incompetence does not sufficiently describe that, okay? It was designed...
So let's hear that one more time, even though it's kind of hard to listen due to his reverb.
Deceptive, completely irregular, and hold on, an unprecedented ballot that just so happened to favor the candidate that was the brother of the governor at the time. Please. And was distributed specifically in Democratic counties. Like, unless we can find a better explanation for that, incompetence does not sufficiently describe that, okay?
Incompetence 100% does describe that. All the signs point to incompetence. The idea that this was designed with the implicit intent of favoring George Bush, there's no evidence for that whatsoever. What there is evidence for is due to the fact that this person was trying to design this under the idea that would help the elderly people in Palm County and was designed by a Democrat. So unless you think the Democrat was a secret operative working against the Democrats in Palm Beach County, you shouldn't be talking about the butterfly ballots when you were discussing the 2000 election and irregularities. What you should be talking about, maybe Bush v. Gore, right? Talk about the actual decision of the courts. You should be talking about other things. Maybe talk about Jeb Bush. But don't talk about the butterfly ballots. That is conspiracy territory because there is no evidence to sustain the fact that that was designed with the intention of benefiting the Republicans whatsoever.
It was designed by a Democrat.
Yep.
He's so mad. Look at him mad. Look, I can pretend to be mad too. Catherine Harris was a Republican.
Okay, the reason I'm mad is because I have no clue why Vaush, really more frustrated, Vaush would hitch his argument or attach himself to the butterfly ballot conspiracy theory when there's no evidence to back it up, and he could easily just talk about Bush v. Gore or anything else to back this up. Hey, thank you for joining the raid. I don't understand. That frustrates me. Why would he do that? And so, seeing Vaush do that actively on stream frustrated me. And I don't know about why you're bringing up Catherine Harris, who was, I believe, the Secretary of State of Florida at the time. But that has nothing to do with the butterfly ballots. Does that have to do with the election in Florida? Yes, that has nothing to do with the butterfly ballots. Unless you are telling me that Catherine Harris, and not as every other media source and the individual in question has proposed, Lepore, a Democrat, designed it, then I would like to see this evidence that Catherine Harris, the Secretary of State of Florida at the time, who was not the person who designed the ballot, was the person behind the ballot looking like it did, and not the designer. There's no evidence whatsoever to purport that. So why would you bring that up? It makes no sense to bring it up. Why? She didn't design it. She had nothing to do with the butterfly ballots. Why are you bringing up Catherine Harris?
She was the boss. She was Secretary of State. She was also George W. Bush's election campaign co-chair in Florida.
Good for her.
And which is probably not the reason she certified Bush before a recount had been completed.
I hate how he fades into the darkness. He says something that he thinks is impactful, and then fades into the inky black, like he just made an amazing point, but literally said nothing. He said nothing. Ever. That had nothing to do with the butterfly ballots. The butterfly ballots were designed by a Democrat. What Vaush is proposing is that actually it wasn't Lepore, it was some secret cabal of Republicans who designed that, knowing somehow in advance that the 1,500 to 2,000 votes that Palm Beach County would be miscounted as voting for the Reform Party would make it so that Bush goes on to the presidency and wins in a blaze of glory. None of that has evidence. None of that is backed up by reality. So what I'm disagreeing with isn't that there was problems with how the 2000 election was held, but it's this conspiracy theory around butterfly ballots, which was designed by a Democrat. So why are you mentioning Katherine Harris? Why are you mentioning Bush's campaign? Why are you mentioning all this other stuff that has nothing to do with this? It would be like if I was trying to say all the bad things the Trump administration did, and I said,
a curd is a curd.
Trump kicked a puppy. And then someone walked up and said, well, there's actually no evidence of Trump kicking a puppy. And then someone said, oh, really? Well, did you know Trump betrayed the Kurds? And Trump never proposed a health care plan? And Trump didn't want to show everybody his tax returns? And Trump, and like, yes, that's all fine and dandy and good information, but it has nothing to do with the accusation that Trump kicked a puppy. The same way that everything he just mentioned has nothing to do with the accusation that the butterfly ballots were designed by Republicans in some evil scheme.
But okay.
Incompetence is a valid description of that. Because
They accidentally stopped the recount.
there's no evidence of the kind.
That has nothing to do. What? We're talking about the butterfly ballots, not the recount. We're not talking about Bush v. Gore. We're not talking about Katherine Harris. We're just talking about the butterfly ballots. That has nothing to do with it.
Contrary.
There is no evidence accumulated by the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights.
It's just
What? That has nothing to do. Okay, if we're just mentioning facts that have nothing to do with this, I just ate a piece of pizza earlier today. They're counterpoint. If we're just mentioning stuff that has nothing to do with what we're discussing. Is he recording in his mom's basement? I don't know. I think he's recording in his like serial killer dungeon, man. I have no clue. I feel like this guy's gonna drive down to Maryland and put me on a fucking meat hook.
it's delusion.
It's just
Imagination land.
It's just delusion. It's just imagination land. Yeah, you know what happened in Imagination Land? The NAACP and the ACLU both sued Florida, and in discovery, they found 12,000 voters disenfranchised.
Wow, you leaned back like you just said something really smart. But again, that has nothing to do with the butterfly ballots. And if they were designed with the purpose of undermining Al Gore's chances of winning. Again, nothing. The thing is, I wasn't even alive during this election. I was not alive during the 2000 election. You should have a much better memory of these events than I have. You should have a much better memory of these events than I have. I don't know how old you are, but you look like maybe mid to late 30s, early 40s, right? You look in that range. So you most certainly was alive and of age and had the ability to remember what was going on. So why are you taking all these like different facts that have nothing to do with the butterfly ballots and just throwing them at me? That has nothing to do with that.
They estimated it was well over 1,000 votes that they could have gotten for Al Gore. At least. And that election was decided by 537. It's imagination land. No, I think what Dylan and what Destiny Stripper's name are trying to suggest is it's a conspiracy.
It is.
I think Dylan is trying to put forth, and Destiny Stripper's name are trying to put forth a conspiracy theory, usually only heard by right-wingers.
Wait, I'm trying to put forward a conspiracy theory. Okay.
The Civil Rights Commission, the ACLU, the NAACP, and the media are all conspiring to sell a narrative that George W. Bush used voter suppression tactics in order to win the electoral, to get an electoral win.
I never claimed any of this. You're just making up stuff. I never claimed any of that. All I said was the butterfly ballots thing was incorrect. You know what this is? This is someone so rabid, so angry, and so parasocially attached to Vaush that anytime anyone makes a criticism of him, no matter how valid, he has to go after them. He has to get in this serial killer room with all of his dolls and knives spread out everywhere, with this black inky background that he can like descend into and start up the old Windows computer, right? That's what he needs to do. He's parasocially attached to Vaush. I don't know what happened. Maybe his dad didn't hug him enough, or what it is. Who knows? But he just hears somebody saying, actually, I don't think there's any evidence the Republicans did that, and went for the attack. Just went for it. Just leaped into it. The same way that if I heard somebody making a crazy accusation of Trump, and I said, well, there's actually no evidence to suggest that. Why don't you stick to all the stuff he did that's actually bad? And then they just, oh, what? Do you love Trump? Are you a conspiracy theorist? There's no evidence to back up what he's saying.
Win for the presidency of the United States because he did not win the popular vote. Because he's so democratic.
has to hit the vape. Has to
We're
hit
just
the
imagining.
vape.
Everything I just said, I just imagined. You can't look any of that information up. It's
Finally found somebody who pauses more than
I
me, though.
imagined it in my mind.
Yeah, you did.
You can't tell me if something
I just did.
For example,
In fact, I just did, buddy. I just told you that.
there has been for example, Democrats have had gerrymandering fails an election before that actually were poorly designed and ended up benefiting Republicans.
Yep.
You mean they redistricted and didn't gerrymander? You know, if a Democrat does some redistricting and doesn't use that opportunity to gerrymander the district in their own benefit, I don't think that that's necessarily a fail. I think that's just not cheating.
Okay, so I've decided that this person knows nothing about the United States. I don't know if this guy lives in the mountains of Timbuktu, or if this man has lived under a rock and is now speaking up on an issue he doesn't know anything about. You know what he could have done here? Right here, he could have been silent and just let me speak. And but I think his need to find any little thing that I say and just respond to it is so deep that he has to. Yes, what I just said is 100% true. I know it's hard to believe. While Republicans are the most famous for gerrymandering, and the vast majority of cases of gerrymandering has benefited the Republican party, Democrats have gerrymandered as well before. They have gerrymandered in the Midwest, and they have gerrymandered in my own state. This is something I know dearly because I live in Maryland, a state that has gone to court multiple times, I believe, over the issue of gerrymandering. And the reason why there wasn't a decision in the favor of the Republicans, I believe, was something along the lines of, well, a federal court actually can't decide this. So it wasn't that, oh, these Republicans are just complaining. It was, oh, a federal court can't find evidence for this. So while it's hard to believe, Democrats have also gerrymandered. Which, I mean, do you really blame them? If the Republicans are gerrymandering all the time, shouldn't Democrats like fight on an equal playing field? Now you could bring up the questions about democratic referendums and like playing on an even playing field and not cheating and stuff. Okay, fair. But not every Democrat is going to agree with you on that. And also, there have been instances, and I can think specifically of an instance with a Democrat in a Midwestern state, where they have tried to gerrymander, they screwed it up, and it actually led to them losing, like, congressional seats. So, no, there's an avid history around gerrymandering, and it's being used as a electoral tactic. This isn't a made-up story. This is 100% just, it's like historical fact.
There's 9 different states that outlaw using redistricting as a means of gerrymandering votes. But I don't know which state you're referring to, because when you said that, I Googled it. I couldn't find anything. My guess is you're pulling this out of your ass.
Look, I did a quick Wikipedia search. I looked up Dylan'sDeceitfulLies.com, found nothing. So I'm just going to assume that you are wrong, and me, who's done no research on the topic, is correct, because I couldn't, like, do any basic research. Brilliant. I love him. Genius character we have here.
That doesn't mean the Democrats who designed that were secret Republican operatives working for George Bush, doing, like, fucking secret ops. Working for...
Uh-oh, folks. He's making gun noises.
Yep.
He doesn't know what gerrymandering is, but he's making gun noises.
What a fucking prick.
I'm talking about, like, the ACLU, the NAACP, and the findings from the U.S. Civil Rights Commission, and his retort is, pew, 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 pew.
Okay, so there's a lot of people who send me messages of like, hey man, I want to get into streaming. Can you check out my content? And then they'll send me something along the lines of this. And look, I'm trying to be as nice as possible, but streaming is not for everyone, okay? And I want this to be a case about streaming and content creation is not for everyone, okay? You need to have a basic like conception of what lighting is. You need to have a basic conception of reality, and you need to just not be a dumbass. I think those are the 3 major... Well, that last one isn't necessarily true, because there's a lot of dumb people on the platform. So if you can deal with the other 2, then maybe you can start.
Touche, buddy. This kid walks into a fucking room, and I think to myself, that's too much. It's the fucking haircut, man. I'm telling you. You're rocking a look that does not match your fucking personality. And I don't understand why this kid's style icon has to be Eddie Vedder. I mean, fucking for real, dude. What's this fascination you kids have with the fucking 90s? Wasn't all that.
Who's Eddie Vedder? I have no clue who that is, man. That's some old people stuff. I don't know. Eddie Vedder? This guy? Who is this man? I have no clue who this is. I have no clue. My icon is not a picture of Eddie Vedder. It's an artistic portrayal of myself. You can say it's unrealistic, but it's not. Again, I don't know who Eddie Vedder is.
Have you ever seen our porn? It's pretty fucking dull unless you got a thing for like hairspray and silicone titties that look like googly eyes. But don't worry, buddy. You know, my style icon is 1968 Steve McQueen, and my personality does not match that look either. So.
For the fucking Republicans to get them elected.
Pearl Jam? Look, guys, again, I was born in the 2000s. I don't know what any of what you're talking about in chat is. I have no clue. Okay, you guys are all old. Congratulations.
It just means they screwed up. That's what it means.
Okay. In Fantasyland. In Imagination Land. That's what it means.
It had a negative impact on Democrats, but there was no evidence whatsoever that it was purposely designed to screw them over.
There is a pile of evidence. And by the way, the reason
where you have the videos over and you haven't shown me any of the evidence. If there's so much evidence, just remind me the smallest amount of it. There's no evidence. There is none. I'm sorry. There's just no evidence that it was designed, that this designed by a Democrat was designed with the intention of undermining the Democrats. It wouldn't even make strategic sense. So please, Show me this evidence around the butterfly ballots. You've shown me some stuff about the ACLU. You've talked about Catherine Harris. You've talked about the NAACP. You've talked about a bunch of stuff that doesn't have to do with butterfly ballots. So please, tell me about butterfly ballots.
Now, that butterfly ballot story, by the way, just a quick reminder, is so interesting, and why it was so fascinating. Is because in Palm Beach County, the punch holes, they had a punch hole system, and the punch hole system went into Al Gore's section.
I just want to say, we're about almost 2 to maybe 3/3 of the video. We're almost like, we're about 3/4 or halfway through the video, or we're going into 3/4. And he's finally talking about the butterfly ballots. Happy to see it.
For Pat Buchanan's punch hole went into Al Gore's section. So you had a lot of elderly Jewish people voting for Pat Buchanan, and they were walking out talking to fucking to poll takers and stuff, and election watchers going like, did I just vote for Pat Buchanan? And the reason why that's weird for elderly Jewish people to vote for Pat Buchanan is Pat Buchanan is a notorious Holocaust revisionist, kind of like Destiny is also a Holocaust revisionist.
Whoa. Whoa, that is an accusation. You know what? Let me go do something. Let me go do something real quick. Destiny, quick question.
Hi, what's up?
What's your views on the Holocaust?
What kind of? What do you mean?
What do you believe it happened? It didn't? Just a quick question.
Yeah, it happened.
Okay, got it. I'm just watching a video on someone accused you of Holocaust denial. You have a good day, okay? Okay, see you later.
Okay.
Well, that was quickly answered.
That's my understanding. He's an out and out anti-Semite. So yeah.
Because again, it was designed by a Democrat.
And that's really the only thread that you're hanging on to, buddy. That's the only piece.
That's a really important piece of evidence, because it wasn't about the impact. It wasn't about, and by the way, he talked about butterfly ballots. Nothing he said disproved what I was saying, that they were designed by Democrats, and while it had a negative impact, its intent was not to screw over the Democrats. He still hasn't provided any evidence to. All he's done is bring up Pat Buchanan's history around the Holocaust, and then called Destiny a Holocaust denier and revisionist out of nowhere. I have no, man. This is a special cat.
Piece of evidence is one person in the entire state of Florida is a Democrat. Forget that Jeb Bush and Catherine Harris are Republicans.
Jeb Bush did not spend his days tirelessly going through documents, designing the ballots. I don't care your views on Jeb Bush. I don't like him. I think most Democrats don't like him. But he did not design the butterfly ballots. The same thing goes for the Secretary of State of Florida, Catherine Harris. She did not design the butterfly ballots. While elections are managed on a state level by the Secretary of State, a lot of the specifics are also handled on the county level. This is where a lot of Donald Trump's lawsuits during the 2020 election surrounded, where they were trying to do redos in certain counties because they didn't like what happened on the county. So again, this woman in Palm Beach, who is a Democrat, designed the ballot. And so unless you can show me that she intended to undermine the Democrats when it comes to the design of the butterfly ballot in Florida, and specifically Palm Beach, you're just full of delusions. You're just angry at me because I disagreed with your parasocial daddy, Vaush. Simple as. And you know what? Here's a special thing for everyone. You can disagree with somebody and not, go for their throat and try to destroy them, and you hate them, and you want them to all sink and go away and die, okay? Just because I disagreed with Vaush, or disagreed with somebody else, or have a disagreement with someone, doesn't mean now you need to go to the defense like they're your father, okay? You don't need to. You can just listen to the criticism, okay? I hear Vaush bad, but for this guy, it's like somebody brought up in chat, Vaush dad. I really don't see the reasoning to come out and do this. And let me say, there was a lot of people who were not happy with my Vaush is a conspiracy theorist video, but not a single one of them Not a single one of them has yet to explain to me how the butterfly ballot showed an intent to undermine the election. I have yet to see any evidence, and you want to know what? There is none, because if there was evidence, it would have surfaced in the last 21 years.
And George W. Bush's brother, and Katherine Harris was his co-chair for his election campaign, and that the U.S. Civil Rights Commission deemed them responsible and recommended the Justice Department litigate against Jeb Bush. You can guess where that went. But George W. Bush blocked that from happening.
Okay.
Because by then George W. Bush was the president.
Okay.
Incompetence super describes it. Number one. It does not. That is so for to me. That would be my bias. Number two. I didn't get to finish my point again. You finished your point, and now you're mad because I got interrupted.
Filibuster.
You can't just say because I can't find another explanation. Therefore, conspiracy. That is like every couple's like go-to argument. Like I can't say why this is reported incorrectly. Must be a conspiracy between the media. Must be.
Destiny just said it was a conspiracy for the media. That's what I'm telling you. These guys believe that the narrative that George W. Bush cheated is a conspiracy.
That's not what Destiny was saying. We're debating the butterfly ballots right now. We're talking about the butterfly ballots. Oh my god. Okay, we're gonna finish this video. We're gonna speed it up because this guy just can't stop.
From the left.
Actually, not being able to find another explanation for a person's behavior is actually a really strong indicator of potential intent. So, for example, I'll give you an example to this, okay? If you wanted to arrest a person for attempted murder, okay, and they had a gun in their pocket...
Okay, his example here is stupid. A better example, I'm not even going to get into that. A better example would be a CEO. Let's say Jeb Bush is like a CEO of a car company. And some people come up, some scientist faces come up to him and they say, hey, Jeb Bush, these airbags are defective. People could die. And then Jeb Bush says, fuck it, put them in anyways. And then people die. Is Jeb Bush responsible? Yes. Short answer. But listen.
But the person here would be a Democrat, Lepore, and Lepore didn't do it to undermine anything, okay? You can say she is responsible for the impact because she designed a bad ballot, but she didn't do it with the intent of undermining Bush or Al Gore or anyone.
I appreciate what Vaush is doing here. I was mad at him, and I still am, and nearly unsubscribed and abandoned him because he posted pictures.
And abandoned him. See, it is 100% parasocial for him. Abandoned him. I was so angry. I was gonna unsubscribe. I was gonna hit the clicky red button. It was gonna be a disaster. It was gonna be sad. It was gonna be a sad chapter of my life. I was never gonna forgive him, but he dragged me back in. He dragged me back in. Why is this the guy that called Destiny Holocaust now? Yes. I have no clue why people need to have these deep personal relationships with streamers, okay? At some point, you need to realize that I'm a person in a computer screen. I'm a person in your phone. I'm a person with all likelihood you will never have a one-to-one interaction with. You can support me, and I'd appreciate it. You can play Raid Shadow Legends by doing !raid and playing the tutorial to support the channel. That'd be gratefully helpful. You could donate. You can sub. There's a million different things you can do to help me and have an impact in my life in some manner, but we're never going to have a deep personal relationship. But this guy would put so much weight upon just hitting a little red button. Again, why, man? Why?
Of some events at a kink parade, or at a kink event, and tried to pass them off as happening at a pride parade. And I thought that was dangerously homophobic, and he still will not admit that he did that. And I think that for his own benefit, he should do something that Destiny Stripper's name would never do, and admit he was wrong. And people would respect him more. He'd be the first Twitch streamer that anyone took seriously. You can't take these people seriously.
He'd be the first Twitch streamer that anyone ever took seriously. Okay, you know what? The first one that anyone took seriously isn't going to be like Ninja, who got all these like big deals. Isn't going to be these people who have gone out and made tons of money with corporations, or have changed the game, or have revolutionized the game. The first one, and not to like piss on Vaush, but the first streamer people are going to take seriously is Vaush. Vaush is going to have a lot of trouble making him the first one people take seriously, considering a lot of his previous comments, particularly around the state of Israel. That's going to be a dark shadow that hoists over him for forever. Most likely like a nuclear shadow or a nuclear fallout per se. But like I again, man, this seems like a personal relationship you've developed with the content creator that makes it so if anybody says they're wrong on anything, you've got to come out and just like worship them, man.
Because they never learn anything. They never admit that they're wrong. And so how can you respect a person who never admits that they're wrong? But I do respect what he's trying to do here. He's trying to patiently explain to these sweat hogs that a criminal doesn't necessarily have to admit that they're a criminal in order to be seen as a criminal. Because they have to have that explained to them.
They were walking through an alleyway towards their ex-girlfriend's house after posting
Convoluted
text
explanation.
messages. The fact that there's no other reasonable explanation for them doing that, walking through that alley towards their ex-girlfriend's apartment with a gun in hand, is actually a really strong indicator towards their intent. So yes,
Maybe you fucked yourself, Vaush, because in your example, they said threatening text.
Designed by a Democrat means nothing. It was produced by a printing company who didn't make sure the registration was right. So was the printing company in on it? Was it Dominion voting all along?
Dominion voting wasn't around in 2000.
Yes.
Dominion voting machines weren't around in 2000. Diebold voting machines. I can understand.
No, I know the that's the joke. See, I'm going to explain it because it makes it funnier. The joke was that it sounds just as conspiratorial to say the printing company was in on it as to say Dominion voting in the 2020 election was the reason that Trump lost. That was the joke.
The confusion because they both begin with D, but it doesn't
This
look...
guy's outpaced me intellectually. Stop coping. He's truly an intellectual speedrunner.
Good. And by the way, those Diebold voting machines had a lot of errors, both in 2000 and in 2004, and those errors favored George W. Bush both times. But Dylan does not look good here, getting Diebold and Dominion confused. He does not look good, not knowing what gerrymandering is.
I didn't get them to confused. You just have no sense of irony. You don't know the history of gerrymandering whatsoever, or the Democrats have gerrymandered, or the Democrats have failed at gerrymandering in certain Midwestern states.
As for the rest of it, I'm going to assume that it's not incompetence, that he does know what he's talking about, but he's just lying about everything else.
Okay. Got it.
So, I think I have to do more on this. I'm going to do a Destiny clip, too, because this is dangerous. I've been online, and people actually believe these guys' story, Dylan and Destiny's stripper's named story, because they seem to believe that George W. Bush won Florida fair and square.
I am dangerous.
And,
this is creepy. Why doesn't he turn a light on? Because that's a serial killer room, man. If you turn the light on, you'd see the fucking meat hooks. You'd see some carcasses. You see blood everywhere. Okay, man, this guy's recorded his video like a serial killer since the start, okay? I don't want to mess with this vibe, though. I kind of, through this video, I've gotten attached to it, It's kind of like watching those true crime documentaries. Is it nice to look at these, crazed people who go out and just slaughter whole families? No. It's kind of interesting, though.
Oh. As
got
we
like
all
a true
know,
crime vibe,
if you don't know your history, you're bound to repeat it.
Then the Legion...
What a very, I gotta look at the comments. I have to see the comments. This video needs to exist. Dylan was legitimately frustrated with his response, and he pads this out by giving mod advice, despite being a bad moderator himself. Okay, you can make your own debate show. Wonderful. Most people seem to think that Vaush got destroyed by people who were shouting outdated Alex Jones references and literally reconning the entire Bush presidency for an hour. All I said was that the butterfly ballot thing was wrong. Thank you for spending the several minutes it took for to look up shit that happened before all their times. Sadly, he didn't. You should reach out to him and get on the show. He said he's going to watch your video, but he thought it was poorly put together. I told him that either him or Destiny should get in touch with Matt Leach and debate Sam Cedar. I don't think Sam Cedar is gonna think that the butterfly ballots was a deep state, a Republican conspiracy. He was covering the story back then. He's just as much of a conspiracy theorist as the rest of us. And the video quality is fine. There's so many colors in this clip. It looks great. This stream was brought to you by Trade Shadow Legends. Okay. For everybody who wants to support the channel, the best thing you can do, undoubtedly, is not only, of course, sub, dono, the usual things, but just hit ! Raid in chat. Just play the tutorial. It would really help me out. If I can hit the certain goals by the end of the week, it's really going to help me put away some money for my college fund. And I would really like to put some money away for my college fund by the end of the year. I'd appreciate it. Just throwing that guys out to you.